In the news tonight, Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan rebukes the UN Security Council for inaction over Syria, saying despite all efforts, it has failed to intervene to stop the human tragedy. The annual diplomatic charity bazaar in support of Mabarrat al-Hussein orphans takes place with the participation of 55 Arab and foreign diplomatic missions. And U.S. President Barack Obama seeks to keep up his campaign momentum by reminding Americans how he came to the auto industry's rescue and saved workers' jobs. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. And we begin with the latest in the Syrian crisis. Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan rebuked the UN Security Council for inaction over Syria, saying the world body of superpowers is repeating mistakes that led to massacres in Bosnia in the 90s. Erdogan was speaking at a news conference during the Istanbul World Forum, attended by international dignitaries, including Arab League Secretary General Nabil al-Arabi. He said despite all efforts, the UN Security Council has not intervened in the human tragedy that has been going on in Syria for the past 20 months. Erdogan said a system which allowed one or two nations to block intervention in such a massive humanitarian crisis was inherently unjust, adding that Syria would go down in history as a UN failure, much like Bosnia in the 90s.
If we leave the issue to the vote of one or two members of the Permanent Five at the United Nations, then the aftermath of Syria will be very hazardous and humanity will write it down in history with unforgettable remarks. It is high time to consider a structural change for international institutions, especially for the UN Security Council. Each day it becomes more and more difficult for international institutions with unjust, unequal and inactive mechanisms to function and fulfill their duty.
Meanwhile, news reports said Syrian military tanks drove near the Syrian-Turkish border along the roads connecting border villages. Turkey's armed forces have repeatedly responded to gunfire and shelling spilling across the border from Syria and have warned of a more forceful response if the violence is not contained. Turkey has been leading calls for intervention, including no-fly zones enforced by foreign aircraft to stop deadly attacks by Syrian government forces. Yesterday, Turkey scrambled 2 fighter jets after a Syrian helicopter bombed Azmarin and has warned of a more forceful response if Syrian shells continue to fly over the border. Egypt's Prosecutor General Abdelmajid Mahmoud is defying President Mohamed Morsi's orders to resign, saying his dismissal does not have legal ground. His refusal to resign is the first time Morsi has failed in his widespread reshuffle of government and security officials. Morsi had removed the general prosecutor from his post on Thursday in an attempt to appease demonstrators who accused him of offering weak evidence against officials involved in planning attacks on protesters last year. But Mahmoud arrived at his office in the High Court building this morning, saying the president does not have the legal right to dismiss him. He will defend the independence of the Prosecutor General and the independence of the judges and will not leave his office unless he is assassinated.
The President of the Republic has the right to put his house in order in a way that pleases him and to appoint advisors. But when it comes to the position of the Prosecutor General, then the law and the Constitution have to be respected. And they say that he can leave at his leisure. According to the law and the Constitution, the Prosecutor General must finish out his term.
Back here at home, the Council of Ministers, in their first meeting with Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour, named Minister of State for Media Affairs and Communications and Minister of Culture Samih al-Ma'aita as official spokesperson. Ma'aita was among 16 ministers in the outgoing government of Prime Minister Faiz al-Tarawne, who retained their posts in the newly appointed Mansour's 20-member cabinet. Romania's Foreign Minister Titus Coralton said Jordan was several steps ahead of the Arab Spring, having embarked much earlier on a set of comprehensive reforms. In a statement to Petra News Agency at the end of a visit to Jordan, Coralton said as member in the European Union, Romania strongly supports the kingdom's reform program and views it as exemplary for the region. He said Jordan as a leading regional partner of Romania, noting that trade exchange between the two countries has witnessed a steady increase during the past years. The minister urged the private sector in both countries to enhance cooperation in areas of high potential, such as energy and renewable energy, as well as transportation, agriculture, and tourism. On Jordan's efforts for Mideast peace, Coralton said a two-state solution will remain a priority for Romania and for the European Union, as it is for Jordan. He pledged his country's support to international efforts seeking to achieve comprehensive peace in the Middle East, saying Romania could use its goodwill relations with Israel to push for this objective. A two-day conference on challenges facing the implementation of intellectual property laws in the Arab world opened in Amman today to discuss ways to utilize intellectual property in development. Deputizing for the Prime Minister, Minister of Justice Ghalib al-Zuabi opened the conference. Since becoming a signatory to the International Trade Agreement in the year 2000, al-Zuabi said Jordan has been committed to protecting and implementing intellectual property rights. Subsequently, a number of legislation were amended to preserve the property rights of authors, inventors, and artists, among others. Deliberations continue for the second day tomorrow, with delegates discussing mechanisms to implement intellectual property as a developmental tool and not merely as a way to protect innovators. Topics were issues such as patent rights and trademarks, as well as the judiciary's outlook on intellectual and industrial property and related national and Arab legislation. Her Royal Highness Princess Basma bin Talal inaugurated a diplomatic charity bazaar to support orphans at the Mabarrat al-Hussein orphanage. The annual event hosted a number of Arab and foreign embassies and diplomatic missions that showed their support with the sale of traditional products and home-prepared food items. Proceeds of the bazaar go to the orphanage. Nancy Khair has the details.
Embassies and diplomatic missions from 55 countries came together today to support a noble cause. Her Royal Highness Princess Basma bin Talal inaugurated the diplomatic charity bazaar to support Mabarrat al-Hussein orphanage. In her opening speech, Her Royal Highness expressed her appreciation of all participants who support those in need.
We do encourage you all to come and visit. Come and visit the boys. Come and see the fruits of your support, really. And they do range over a wide, as I say, a variety of activities, better services, most importantly, better opportunities in terms of teaching, in terms of participation. And so it's not just, the bricks and mortar and the equipment, which obviously we value very much, but the quality of life of these young, young people, preparing them for a very safe, strong and active future so that they feel confident, they feel that they are able to contribute. You are giving them the tools in many different ways through your activities here today and throughout the year. So we deeply appreciate it. I salute you all, and I'm so proud, so privileged that you should continue to work with the Mubarra and include me in this very worthy initiative. Thank you so very much, and have a wonderful day, I hope. Thank you.
Dean of the Arab Diplomatic Corps and Bahraini Ambassador to Jordan, Nasser Al-Ka'bi, said he was happy to take part in the event, which deemed a constitutional work that serves as a philanthropy and a means of enhancing social solidarity. The 46-year-old annual event promotes cultural and humanitarian interaction between nations by displaying handicrafts, gifts, cosmetics, clothes, textures, and much more. For those with an adventurous palate for different cuisine and flavors, a special stand was set up for traditional foods and sweets of participating countries. Ambassadors and diplomats all agreed on the importance of the charity that reflects the spirit of giving to underprivileged orphans who deserve care and support.
It is always for us a very great honor and pleasure to be able to participate in this international diplomatic bazaar, and we are very glad that somehow we can help and assist the children in this country. As you know, Jordan and Japan, we are maintain a very, very nice traditional relations. So we hope that through this bazaar we can make it further progress.
We are very honored, very proud to be here, contributing again with our products, with our talent, and most of them handmade. And we think it's very important. We have very good relations with Jordan.
Mabarrat Hussein Orphanage has been providing care, shelter, and education for orphans since 1958. But most of all, it provides them with a home environment that fosters self-reliance and self-esteem. Nancy Khair, News at 10.
U.S. President Obama sought to sustain momentum from his vice president's strong debate, showing by touting the benefits of one of his signature actions, the rescue of the U.S. auto industry. In his weekly radio address, Obama reminded Americans how he came to the industry's rescue and bet on the American workers.
To let Detroit go bankrupt. I bet on American workers and American ingenuity, and 3 years later, that bet is paying off in a big way. Today, auto sales are the highest they've been in more than 4 years.
Romney had opposed government help for automakers and has called the Obama administration's record on trade as weak and promised to wage much more aggressive campaigns to open markets abroad to U.S. goods and services. Obama will drop from view for several days to prepare for his second debate with Romney on Tuesday. He's hoping to build on Biden's confident performance at the vice presidential debate Thursday night after his own listless debate performance last week gave Romney a sharp boost in opinion polls. Well, a day after the vice presidential debate, Republican Vice President Paul Ryan joined presidential nominee Mitt Romney at a rally in the politically divided state of Ohio. Addressing the crowds, both Romney and Ryan slammed Barack Obama's campaign. Romney said the president does not have a plan for creating jobs, while Ryan, fresh from his debate against Vice President Joe Biden, criticized the Obama administration for wanting to cut defense spending and said the White House is projecting an image of American weakness to the world.
When it came to jobs, both last night with Vice President Biden and in my debate with President Obama, they didn't have a plan for creating jobs for middle-income Americans. They say they care about middle-income Americans, and I believe they care. They just don't know what to do. And so they say, well, they're going to have another stimulus. How'd the last one work out, you know?
What we are witnessing when we turn on our TVs on a daily basis is the unraveling of the Obama foreign policy. Yes, we are. And when you say it's okay to impose these devastating cuts in our military, or that we don't need any more Lima-built M1 tanks, what we are doing is we're projecting weakness. And when we project weakness abroad, our enemies become more brazen. Our enemies are more tempting to test, and our allies are less willing to trust us.
Losing Ohio could be disastrous for Romney, as history has shown no Republican has ever won the White House without carrying the politically divided states. 4 diamonds weighing more than 50 carats each will go under the hammer on Tuesday at Christie's auction house in New York at the first jewelry auction of the fall season. The top lot of this season's sale is a flawless, pear-shaped D-grade colorless diamond that weighs 50.62 carats. Another lot expected to garner interest is a pair of matched pear-shaped pendant earrings with one yellow diamond of 52.78 carats and one white diamond of 50.31 carats. The earrings are expected to fetch between $4.5 and $6.5 million. The heaviest diamond at the auction is a oval-cut yellow diamond of 68.35 carats, worth in excess of $3 million. Among the items in the sale are signed pieces from famous designers such as Bulgari, Cartier, Tiffany & Co., Van Cleef & Arpels, and Harry Winston. Christie's hopes to bring in more than $40 million from the jewelry sale. Michael Jackson's former costume designer is sharing the history of the pop star's style and their 25-year friendship. Michael Bush released a new book, The King of Style, in which items belonging to Jackson were shown as part of the book signing. The pieces include the entire outfit Jackson wore for the cover photo of the Bad album. Jackson's staple pink shirt with CTE initials, whose meaning remains unknown, is also on display. Throughout the years, Jackson was known for his military attire, and according to Bush, he was attracted to this look because military clothes are form-fitting and dancer-friendly.
I think his mentality was, what man doesn't look good in a uniform? So now how are we going to take that and make it rock and roll, make it Michael, which was going to make ours out of leather. It's still a silhouette, and it's still the lines of a military jacket, but we've made it rock and roll. The biggest request was that Michael danced the beat. The clothing needed to show you the beat. So the clothes had to accentuate what the song what he wanted to portray with his music, and the clothes helped show the dance.
We begin with tennis, where world number 2 Novak Djokovic cruised in the final of the Shanghai Masters with a straight sets win over Thomas Berdych of the Czech Republic. Second seed Djokovic defeated Berdych 6-3, 6-4. The Serbian gave a superb performance in both sets, despite Berdych's efforts to slow his progress. Djokovic will now face Andy Murray in the finals, setting up a repeat of their memorable US Open final last month. Murray made it to the finals after thrashing number 1 Roger Federer in 2 sets. Murray was the dominant player throughout, and Federer was merely hanging on for much of the time. After service breaks were swapped early on, Murray seized control of the opening set in the 5th game when the Swiss served 3 consecutive doubles. With a 6-4, 6-4 win, Murray is now looking for a 3rd consecutive victory over Djokovic. From China, we move to Japan and the MotoGP. Championship leader Jorge Lorenzo secured his 6th pole position of the season with a record last gasp in qualifying for tomorrow's Japanese Grand Prix. The Yamaha rider clocked a lap of 1 minute 44.9 seconds, comfortably faster than main title rival Dani Pedrosa's Honda, who came in 2nd. Britain's Cal Crutchlow was 3rd quickest, while American Ben Spies, also on a Yamaha, came in 4th. And finally, for a quick look at the weather forecast, it continues to be fair tonight with northwesterly moderate winds. Mild conditions prevail in hilly areas tomorrow, but it will be relatively hot in other regions with northwesterly moderate to fresh winds. The Gulf of Aqaba can expect hot conditions with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan rebukes the UN Security Council for inaction over Syria, saying despite all efforts, it has failed to stop the human tragedy. The annual diplomatic charity bazaar in support of Mubarak al-Hussein orphans takes place with the participation of 55 Arab and foreign diplomatic missions. And US President Barack Obama said to keep up his campaign momentum by reminding Americans how he came to the auto industry's rescue and saved workers' jobs. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.